I don't think I've ever gone this long being quiet. I don't know what to do.
All right, we have about 27 folks on so far. We'll give it just a few seconds and we'll get started.
Okay. I feel like I should have had jokes ready or something for this first few minutes. Sorry, everybody. I'm not very good at telling jokes though, so they would have been like, how do you get a tissue to dance? You put a little boogie in it. Those are my jokes, so I'll stop.
Okay. All right, well, I think we've got 29 folks on, so I think I'm going to get started. Good afternoon, and thank you for jumping online today and joining us for our AMA Education webinar series. Today we'll be featuring keeping staff engaged and morale up. Our education team has put together several free webinars for you and your teams during the month of April, and we hope to see you again tomorrow for our next webinar, How to Do an Amazing Virtual Tour at 10 a.m. You may register on our AMA website. I would like to take the time to remind you that during this challenging time, our vendor members are there for you and your teams. They are ready to work with you on whatever budgeting restrictions you may have or emergency services that you may need. They have been your trusted suppliers and would like to continue to provide you excellent service at any time. A few of them are identified on this slide and live by the motto, AMA members supporting members. I would like to introduce our special guest panelists for today. Please welcome Bri Carter with the Phoenix Staffing and Rachael Kish from Shelton Residential. Thank you both for being with us this afternoon, and I will turn it over to them.
Hi, everybody. So I am going to just share my screen really quick, so give me just a moment, please. Let me do this correctly for you. So my name is Bri Carter, and I know some of you, I don't know everyone, but I just wanted to let you know that Rachael and I are really excited about being here today. We're going to be talking about morale engagement with your teams, and there's really three top things we want to hit today. That's going to be mindset, leaders and leading from behind, and facing your fears. So we just wanted to introduce ourselves first and tell you a little bit about ourselves, but we also want to let you know there's going to be questions and answers at the end. So if you want to ask some questions, there is a button on your screen. You can send those over to Michelle, and she'll put those into a queue for the end of the seminar. So my name is Bri Carter. I started in 1994, and yes, I'm that old. I started as a leasing consultant, went to assistant manager. I wasn't very good at that. They put me in a room not talking to people, didn't work. Went to a manager level, and I've done sales for most of my adult life. So I worked for apartmentguide.com, Gannett, done national sales. I was a regional sales director for CoStar and Apartments.com for many years. And then I most recently been a VP of sales and recruitment with the Phoenix Staffing. I do have my CAM certificate. I have my Lyceum. That's a really great one for leadership that you can get through the AMA. And I'm also the co-chair for the education committee. My favorite things to do are to coach volleyball teams. And I also coach about 30 girls for my church group on Sundays. So my favorite thing to do is train and coach.
Great, thanks, Bri. I'm excited to work with you this afternoon. We have a lot of fun at the education committee. My name is Rachael Kish. I got into the industry when I was just a baby adult in 2003, newly moved to Arizona and brand new married, working at a lease up. And like many of you, found myself in this industry sort of by accident. I didn't dream of being a property manager as a bossy little 7-year-old girl, but that's, where I've ended up, and I've loved every minute ever since. So in 2014, I started serving as a multi-site manager, directly overseeing the operations of multiple communities, 500 plus units. Had a great time doing that. I started working with Shelton Residential in 2017. I was a community area manager for them, and now I serve as a regional portfolio director most recently. I do serve alongside of Bri on the education committee with the AMA. It's a wonderful group of people really committed to serving the industry and making sure we are providing the tools and the resources just to make sure our people are the best and the brightest. So I also hold my CAM and my CAPS. I have been a Tributes finalist a few times now. I highly recommend, if you've not played a part in the Tributes nomination process, either for yourself or for your teams, you must get involved. It's such a great opportunity, and it's just an awful lot of fun. So I'm really glad to be here with you this afternoon. Thanks for taking time out of your day to hang out with us.
So we thought we would start in the most uncomfortable way, and you're welcome. We thought we'd start with our fears. So we wanted you to know, like, we think during this, as we talk about how to get morale and engagement up in your teams, you really have to face your own fears during this because they're real. So my biggest fear during this is failure. I really do fear failing my family. I fear failing my job. I fear losing my job. I fear having a lack of time or spending my time in the most productive way. I also fear confidence. Like I don't know if I don't know what I don't know kind of thing, right? So I fear not being in control. That's probably the biggest thing. Obviously, I don't know what's going to come next. I don't know what's going to happen next. So that's my biggest fear right now, is being out of control of the situation.
Absolutely, Brian. I don't think you're alone. The COVID-19 situation is unprecedented in our lifetime, and if we're not experiencing some fear, some pressure as a result of this unique situation, we're probably not even alive. So for me, I have a very specific fear in all of this. My role with Shelton Residential as a regional portfolio director is very new, and at the onset of that new journey also came on the COVID crisis. So as I'm learning a new role, which has its own challenges, I'm also taking on all of this additional saga of COVID-19 and trying to do my best in scenarios that are both very new to me. And so I have a fear that my forever reputation in this industry will be very much defined by my successes and my failures right now. As the person who spends a lot of time and prioritizes achievement and success, too much so, I would argue, as a way to kind of define who I am as a person, which is not good, but I have a natural inclination for that. That kind of thinking became a really fertile breeding ground for fear and for toxic thinking. So right now, that's my struggle.
So we recognize that probably everybody in the room has a fear, but we'd really like to hear from you right now. There is a button that you can raise your hand, and we'd love to have everybody just raise their hand right now if you're feeling some kind of fear right now. And I won't be able to see that, but I'm going to raise my hand just so you know. Can you see my hand? There you go. There's my hand. I mean, I'm feeling it right now. So I think when Rachel and I started this and we thought, okay, how do we tell people how to create a morale or an engagement with the team? I think we both realized it's our mindset that's going to make the biggest difference. So I just had to change that. And it's not just that, but I'm saying I took that fear and I said, okay, I know I have a fear of lack of control over what's going on. But the more I changed my mindset to understand I can't control the situation, but I can control my attitude. I can control how I feel right now, and I can be more optimistic. I can have a better plan for my team, and to understand their fears right now, probably mirror mine, really kind of helped me to change my understanding of how to change my mindset one step at a time to help them as well.
Definitely, definitely. The fears I spoke about earlier with regard to myself, as I started to kind of explore what those fears looked like and the impact they were having on me and my performance and the way I was leading, I began to realize that those fears really only existed in my mind. Not to say that bad things can't happen at any time, especially during COVID, but the scenarios that I was playing out really are just in here. They're not real in reality. They were very real in my mind, but I think that there's a big difference between reality and fear and made up scenarios in my head. And so what I decided to do was I was just going to acknowledge the fear. I wasn't going to pretend that it didn't exist. I wasn't going to try and bury it, but rather, I don't want to deny my emotion. It's a very real part of who I am. It's a real part of who you are. So I don't want to dismiss emotion, but at the same time, I decided I was going to commit to not live in an emotional state of fear. So I began to recognize and acknowledge the fear, and I thought I would do this. I would take it captive. I would literally take my fear and I would take my thoughts and I would hold them hostage because I refuse to let fear just run rampant in my mind.
So we wanted you to know, we recognize we all have these fears going on right now, and we also recognize our teens have fears. So how can we kind of help them to lead and lead from behind? And we'll explain what that is. I'll let Rachel go ahead and tell you what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as leaders, it's easy for us to say, okay, we have fears. Obviously, we're people. They're going to impact us to some degree. Okay, that's a no-brainer. But I think and we can control ourselves most easily. I mean, really, we only have control of ourselves. But everyone on our team, those that we lead, have fears also. And so it's really critical as a leader to understand and identify the fears of the people that you serve and who serve the mission that you guys have. You have to understand the influence that fear is having on them and how it's going to impact your objectives and your outcomes. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that today. There are people on your team and in your organization who lead from behind. And I don't know if that's a concept that makes sense when I say those words. So I want to use an analogy. I want you to think of the toddler in your life, the little boss babe or the president of the United States that you've raised or that you know, who does not have a defined leadership because they're only 3 or 4 years old, but has an irresistible desire and urge to be in charge. That is kind of a basic and visceral example of someone who possesses leadership skills, who regardless of the title they hold, will try and find a way to lead. Another example of someone who might lead from behind, who is leading without a defined leadership position, is that teenager. You know, it could be your brilliant teenager who is the captain of whatever, the chess club, or is the president of his school, of his class, or it could be the troublemaking teenager who has a crazy amount of influence over his peers and can just get anyone to do anything, no matter how bizarre it is. That's an example of a young leader trying to kind of stretch himself in his leader role and find a way to lead, even though he doesn't have a defined capacity for it. More relevant to all of you would be the person on your team who does not have a defined leadership role, who is not a formal leader in any way, but still cannot resist the urge to lead. This individual will lead unintentionally, even unconsciously, but regardless is acting like the gravity in the room. That their attitudes, that their decisions, that the way they speak draws people to themselves, and they can change the direction of your team even if they don't mean to. Okay? My husband and I we've been married almost 17 years. This is a great story. We went to Bermuda for our honeymoon, and we thought it would be a great idea to rent a moped, very Hallmark Channel. You know, I have this vision in my mind. We're gonna rent a moped. We're gonna cruise the bustling little streets of Bermuda. He's gonna drive. I'm gonna be on the back. My arms wrapped around him. It'll be perfect harmony. And it wasn't. It wasn't, because I was afraid. I'd never been on a two-wheeled bike, and I don't understand the laws of physics. If you know me, you know that's true. And so every time he would turn a corner, he would lean. I would get afraid, so I would turn the other way. And we did this for a while, and every time I became more afraid, so I would lean further in the opposite direction of him, to the point that he would have to overcorrect because of my fear, and we wrecked our bike on our honeymoon, causing greater injury to my husband than to me, all because I was afraid to lean into him. There are people within your organization who are leaning into you. They trust you as a leader, and so it's very easy and very natural for them to just lean into your leadership. But there are people who are less trustworthy, who are less trusting of you for whatever reason, right or wrong, who are not leaning into you, and they're leaning away from you, and they're creating opportunities for other people to lean away from you, making your job as a leader more difficult and creating confusion for the people behind you. So keeping that in mind, how do we teach people to lean into us, right?
So I just want to tell you, I've been married for 20 years, so I still lean away from my husband sometimes, so you're welcome.
It happens.
So we thought, okay, how do we get people to lean into us, right? How does that concept work right now for morale and for encouragement and engagement? So to me, it's a lot harder than it sounds, but it's actually probably the easiest thing you can do. So one-on-one conversations right now are going to be so important with your team. And I'm not just talking about your office team. If you're a manager, you need to pick up the phone or have a one-on-one conversation with someone who is your housekeeper, who is your porter. What we really need to do, though, is have one-on-one times so they can share with you their fears. Be vulnerable. Tell them what your fears are during this time. It's okay to have honest conversations that can move in the right direction. Understanding people's fears right now, to me, I think are the biggest piece. And I'm not talking about, geez, I'm fearful that COVID's going to go on forever. I think that's a fear, but I think bigger fears are, how am I going to help my kids get through their day? I'm not a teacher. How am I going to feed them when I'm on a conference call? How am I going to keep them out of the room, if they're coming to tap on me every 4 seconds? Like, what are their fears when it comes to those kind of things? What are their fears about their family members? Because some of them are sick, or some of them might be going through something. You really have to understand your team's fears right now, because I think that's how you're going to be the best leader. If you're honest with someone and they're honest with you, what happens is this huge circle of trust and respect that won't just last during this, it'll last over your entire leadership time. The times I haven't been a good leader is when I don't know what my team's goals are or what their future goals are. So really, this is a great time to think big. Find out what their plans are. What do they want to learn? What do they want to do better or more? Maybe one of them wants to be, the marketing director. Or did you even know that? How can you help them to get to that point? Engagement to me is about understanding the big picture. And I think for me and my team, it's just we've started to move in the same direction because we have more conversations about the why behind the what. That's a really important piece right now. And I think you also need to understand, don't be that leader that's just surviving right now, that's reactionary to everything happening around them. You need to be that person who is creating a big picture, a better plan, and has actionable items for your team. And Rachel's going to talk about that a little bit right now.
Thank you, Bri. As we're experiencing a time of social distancing, we're also finding that it's more and more critical to get one-on-one. So how do we do this social distancing thing and also get right up close to people to connect with them in really meaningful ways? So it's just such an interesting dilemma that we work through as leaders. But I think that, you know, we can talk about fear, and it's really critical to know what fear is and how it's impacting our lives, but also to just talk about fear for fear's sake only breeds more fear. So as a leader, we really need to be intentional and sit down and think about our teammates and the key players on our team and identify some truths about those people, so that when we have the opportunity to have a vulnerable conversation and they're willing to trust us and share with us their fears, we can have something to offer them, some hope, some strategy, some character qualities that are unique to them that can help them take their fear and make it smaller. You know, if I was to use Bri as an example, let's say Bri was on my team, some things I know about Bri is she's just very, very optimistic. So it doesn't matter how cloudy it is outside, she's going to find a ray of sunshine. I also know that Bri is very charming, and she uses charm to leverage her influence, and she gets a lot of things done just with the way she builds rapport and connects with people. And those are really meaningful things to know about Bri and the way she operates. And you have to be able to sit down and identify those qualities, 3, 4, 5 qualities that exist and are unique to the people on your team, so that when they come to you and say, hey, I'm feeling this way, you know, the fear exists in their mind. It's very real to them, even though it's not happening necessarily in the world. It's real inside of them. And so what hope do you have to offer? And so you have to know the truth. You have to couple the truth, almost like ammunition, so that they can defeat their fear. You can't take away fear out of someone's mind. That's not within your power to do. It's only within their power. But as a leader, you do have a responsibility to make sure that they have the tools and they're equipped with some simple things to help make their fear small, so that it can become disentangled from their emotion, from their true reality of the situation, from their productivity. So it'll create some clarity, but they need some resources to help disenable the fear from their minds. So I would, you know, as you're sitting around thinking about the people on your team, go to the negative person. The negative person is oftentimes a leader that just doesn't know how to lead. And see if you can win their heart, win their mind, win the influence that they have over your people for the common good, so to speak, and give them a purpose in the chaos. So sit down, identify their fears, help them understand some truths about themselves. Say, hey, what am I doing wrong as a leader? How can you make me better? Let them develop an action plan, help them communicate the plan, let them decide who is going to take on different aspects of the plan. And all of a sudden, you've created a champion on your team for your own mission, who before was leaning away from you, because you've given them some autonomy, you've given them some freedom, you've given them some purpose. People need purpose more now than ever. Those individuals who will irresistibly lead will lead with or without you. So how can you leverage their natural ability so that everyone on your team, you're leading from the front, everyone is following, and they're creating this forward momentum for you from behind, leading from behind.
So one of the things that I think myself and my team realized very quickly was there were days where I would sit down and go, what did I do today? Like, what did I accomplish today? And I think the biggest thing is we weren't talking every day. We weren't talking about our common goals. So I might do 12,000 things, but what did I actually accomplish for the day? So actionable items to me are about talking to your team and not talking about what they're accomplishing. Tell them what you're accomplishing. I want to get these things done today, because you're kind of telling them, I want you to hold me a little accountable to the fact right now, everything's such chaos How do we help each other to be going in the same direction? And I think that's helped so much, because now they're telling me, hey, look, these are the things that I'm doing. And it's not me micromanaging. It's us talking about what we're going to do to accomplish a goal that's bigger than ourselves, right? A purpose in the day. And that's really important right now, because I think there's a lot of people that don't feel like they have a purpose. They're doing things to just do them. I think that also needs to be taken out of context and thinking about, you need to do things for other people during the day. Just small things. It could be as simple as, sending them a text message saying you're thinking about them and you hope they're doing okay. It could be as big as, sending them an e-card that, there's some silly ones out there, that are funny. It could be as simple as, I sometimes just pick up the phone and I'm a dork. So I'll send memes, right? All day long. Cause that's okay with me. But my team gets engaged in those things. And again, it's that few minutes of just, that's my deep breath. I needed the breath, right? I needed to take a moment with my team and not be, what are you doing? How are you doing it? What's your email? Like it's a moment for them, right? So think about your team all the time. Small things matter right now. It doesn't always have to be big stuff, right? Small gifts matter. The text messages matter. Picking up the phone and making sure they're doing okay. Those things matter. So I just want to reiterate, it's the small things that matter right now, not the big things.
Absolutely. I think some of the ways from a leadership perspective, we always, we need to start with ourselves first and then kind of work down to our teams. So harkening back to some things we've talked about, I would seriously encourage you to sit down and identify 3 or 4 of your fears right now. The other night I was having some trouble, and my own husband, Jason, asked me, he's like, babe, what are you afraid of right now? And I could, I hadn't really spent a lot of time thinking about it, because who wants to think about it? But he asked me the question and he held me to an answer, and just taking some time to develop the fear out loud and call it out made me feel better. So really take that seriously. Don't just dismiss what you're feeling inside. Call it out, write it down, understand it, and more importantly, tell the truth to it. So the next thing I would encourage you to do, and I would encourage you to do it with your staff, is to find the truths about yourself. It's so easy to feel inadequate right now when none of us really know what to do. We're doing our very best. We have great counsel, we have great minds, but really the situation is new and it's easy to feel ill-equipped, and that's okay. So still tell yourself the things that are true. I'm friendly, I build rapport, I'm organized, I have this credential, I have dealt with this crisis response, I have survived this personal experience. Talk about what is real and what has happened, so that when the fear creeps in, you have a way to disable it, okay? I would also say that if you do that, you've taken the first step at being a trustworthy leader. And so in being a trustworthy leader, you have a responsibility to identify other leaders within your organization and teach them and develop them also. So you need to have a serious conversation with yourself about identifying people who are not in defined leadership roles, but who irresistibly lead anyway. And you need to put them to work. You need to focus that talent in a direction and talk about how you can engage their natural inclinations. Have you done that? How have you engaged their natural inclinations for leadership? And more importantly, is it working? If it's not working, then we need to go back to the drawing board.
Some of the questions as we went through, what does engagement really mean? Engagement to me is really talking to everyone on your team about what do they need during this time, and leave it really open-ended. These are stay questions that you should be using anyway, but these are questions right now that are so important. Your porters see things on the site that you don't see. Your maintenance techs see things that you don't see. So having these conversations are really important. If you just picked up the phone and said to somebody, hey, what do I need to get to you to help your job go more smoothly? Well, heck, I can think of 4 things right now that would help me, right? Do you have all the tools you need? What training are you looking for? It's just leave them open-ended and be quiet. Just let them talk those things through. So it's really interesting because we did this, right? And we kind of said, what's the purpose of this? What's the purpose of going back and having your team be, you know, happier or more engaged? My biggest takeaway from this, there was a few, but it's pretty simple. Don't think everybody is fine right now. They're not. There's things going on in their lives that you don't see. And I think as you talk it through with your teams, you'll start to see they just need direction right now. They need to know the purpose. They need to know the big picture. And I'm not talking about we need to be at 100% by the end of the month. I'm talking about what are your next steps to make sure your residents maybe are happier in the next 30 days? What things can you do? You're going to actually question yourself right now as leaders, probably more than you've ever done. The best leaders do, though. So to me, the leaders who come to me and say, I'm not sure if I can do this right now, those are the people I want to work with, because those are the people that are going to go out and read an extra leadership article online, that are going to take an extra moment to make sure their team's okay. They're going to take a look at themselves and write down their fears and figure out a solution. Those are the best leaders right now. We're not working to work right now. Be really careful that you're not a reactionary leader right now, because if you are, you're missing the boat to create amazing leaders right now. You are. It is okay to feel stressed out. It is okay to not feel in control. As a matter of fact, you need to embrace those things, harness them, and change your mindset to be a better leader tomorrow. Being a leader means thinking outside the box. You can't do this on your own. Call a mentor. Call somebody you need to talk through with, I don't know how to do this. Those are the times that you're going to grow. The biggest thing that this has taught me, I think, during this whole time is we have to change our mindset to be better leaders. And when we do, and we don't just react to everything, I think we really have an opportunity to create something really special right now. And that's the purpose that I see.
Definitely. Fear and pressure in any situation, COVID-19 or not, always compete. You know, they're always a drain on our mental economy. They dull our shine. They are a distraction every day. And we just bat it away. We bat it away and we do our best and we do our best. But so much mental energy is spent and lost combating and pushing down fear just so that we can perform. And I would argue that we actually need to call fear out. We need to identify it in ourselves and in our teams, and we must take it hostage. As leaders, we have to find the truth about our own character, the truth in where our hope comes from, the truth in our people and their natural giftings that will help them dispel and disable their own fears. That's our responsibility as leaders. You know, my mentors have done that for me this week. My supervisor did that for me 3 days ago. It's so critical, and it's okay to ask for the help. And it's certainly imperative that you offer the help to your team. Fear left unchecked will prevent us, it will paralyze us from finding opportunities in this chaos. And COVID-19 presents a myriad of opportunity for people to develop and grow, to forge their reputation within this industry, for ingenuity. There's so much opportunity here, but if we let fear take over, all of that will be missed. And as leaders, we don't want that for our teams. We want more. We want to grow them. So acknowledge the fear. It's there. We know it is. Remind your people and yourself of your natural giftings so that they can start to overcome the things that trouble them, and help them find purpose, especially in the chaos. And as we've gone through this series this chat with Bri, I can tell she's more fun than me. She has all the fun ideas. And I would say, in all of the seriousness that I brought up, remember to have some fun. Have some fun. Bri is great at that. So, connect with people in really meaningful and deep ways, and also in silly and goofy ways, because that matters right now. Silly and goofy is super important. Super important.
And as we went through this and we thought, okay, so what are some things that we can give to you to take back to your teams? And all of this is going to be shareable at the end. So I know they'll send out a link. So we came up with some ideas that we thought were really kind of outside the box. And just so you know, this, I'm just going to brag on Rachael for a second, but this is an awesome article. So you need to go back in and read these because this is a great, I'll let her talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much fun this one is, imposter syndrome. It doesn't even,
I think it's fun.
It sounds like a psychology homework assignment. I'm really sorry, but I'm a nerd. Brian's the fun one. So I will offer you some nerdy fun. And I think that you should go in and read a little bit about imposter syndrome and just understand that what you're experiencing as a leader and when you might feel small in the process and ill-equipped to handle it is totally normal. And you will come through it. Reaching out for feedback from your supervisors, from your mentors, from your leadership, from your teams especially, will be the kinds of things that will draw out the best leadership in you, and will also provoke great leadership from people you're developing.
So the other one we thought would be very relevant is the SWOT analysis. So we've done this now. We just did this at a dinner meeting just recently with the AMA, and I thought, well, geez, this couldn't be more relevant than right this moment. So go back, do this with your teams. This is a great one to do together on a Zoom meeting. Go over your strengths right now. What are you guys doing really well? What could you work on? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities through this that you can see? And what are the threats? What are some things that maybe could come down the line or might happen in the next couple of weeks, and then have a game plan for those things. This is a great time to get people involved that maybe are those negative Nellies, and they get a chance to kind of go through this.
Also, I guess I get all the nerdy stuff. Sorry, guys. But I think there's some great opportunities here, leadership books and articles that you can read quickly as you have some moments. Some great things about feedback is it does asking for feedback from your, I guess, downline, from your direct reports is a great way to build and develop trust between the two of you. Now, I will say it's very awkward for the direct report because oftentimes people want to tell their bosses what they think they want to hear. So you have to really create an environment that's very hospitable, that's very careful, so that you can invite some really honest feedback. And no matter how honest and scary maybe the feedback is, just be so grateful because someone took a risk to help make you better, and that is not insignificant, even if it's painful. So don't be afraid to ask, you know, your direct reports. Don't be afraid to ask your mentors and your supervisors just for the feedback right now more than ever, because we're kind of showing our truest selves, so it's critical.
So obviously we're on the education committee, so we're going to talk about education for a moment, but I'm hoping everyone right now is really taking advantage of the fact that people can do education virtually. Don't make it you have to go do 14 different things tomorrow on education. Be very careful that this becomes something they want to do because they're going to take the most out of it. So I would make some contests. The coolest one I've seen so far, seriously, was a virtual one for maintenance. So my husband watched, I don't know, he watches YouTube videos all day long on how to fix something. He just watched how to fix a slab leak yesterday. And I was like, okay, that's on YouTube? It is. So have your maintenance guys go out and actually do some of these videos. What a cool thing to be able to share in a couple weeks, and they kind of get out of their comfort zone and maybe do something a little bit different as well. So education virtually right now, if you're not doing it or you don't have a plan for it, this is a great one to do.
Yeah, team lunches, you know, couple a lunch with the training kind of makes training and education a little bit more fun. Handwritten notes, always wonderful. Video, text messages, that's a great way to communicate in a super personal way with your team. So just, you know, break from the old norm because we're in totally new normal. So think of some new things you can do in this environment to engage people in a different kind of way.
And if you notice, I gave Rachael a fun one, so that's not fair.
A fun one, finally. Yeah.
So side notes, these are just some things as you go through them that this was us kind of brainstorming and what our thoughts were. So we thought it'd be interesting just to kind of write down some of those ideas of where we thought maybe boosting morale came from. The biggest one we thought was managing the chaos, right? You're going to create some opportunity right now for morale. So we did send those out. We just wanted you to be able to utilize those if you wanted to, because it was kind of where we got some of our ideas from. So we appreciate you very much. I think we did pretty good on time because we talk a lot. So we wanted to know if there was any questions and we wanted to open those up. Michelle, was there any?
We do not have any questions yet. If you want to send them over quickly. But we do have somebody in the audience who would like to say a few words. Courtney?
Oh, please.
Didn't know that was me. So, hey, Bri and Rachel, hey, I just wanted to say thank you guys for putting this class together. I was obviously listening along and thought you guys provided some great information. And we just really appreciate you all stepping up and helping out all of our members during these kind of trying times that we're all going through, that we're all trying to figure out as we go. There is obviously no set course for this situation that we find ourselves in. So I really appreciate y'all taking time out of your busy schedules to help us out and to help out all the members. Thanks.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Courtney.
Okay, so we do have a couple questions, ladies. The first one, can you go through the contest ideas again for encouraging online education?
So I think we had a couple, and I would actually like to hear from everyone in the audience. If you're doing something cool, share it. Right now is not a time to be, I don't want to say, inward, but this is a great time to share, right? So I've seen some really cool things online. So just, virtual learning that I've seen so far, I've seen some of their maintenance staff. Remember, she was talking about leaning into. So get your maintenance staff that are really good at maybe how to change out a garbage disposal right now and have them teach that class. Don't just do the virtual stuff online. The really ones that I see impactful are like your leasing agent who has a 98% closing ratio, don't we all wish, but that they're doing a virtual tour and they are doing something that's totally rock star outside the box. Maybe nobody sees it because nobody's sharing it. Your assistant manager might be doing something for collections on sending out notes that are really nice. Use that as a template. Grace Hill has classes. Oh my gosh, I know there's tons of them out there. But the biggest thing is make them, one of the things that I've done with my team is said, come back to me and tell me something you've read in the last week that's inspirational. That was a leadership thing that we can share as a team, and then we talk about it. And that way it's not always negative and it's not always in our industry. It's been kind of outside of it as well.
One thing we've done in the past, and we've had a good time, is we make the office staff take a maintenance training and see how they do.
Great idea.
And the maintenance guys, our teams will say, if you get X score, if you get these right, we'll buy you pizza, and then vice versa. So we'll make, the maintenance, the outside staff take a leasing course, and if they get a certain percentage, then the leasing staff will buy them lunch. And so it just becomes this friendly competition, but everybody is learning about someone else's role and the unique demands of that position. And so that's been a fun one. Or, taking a leasing agent out and showing her how to turn the water off at a building, and, just like engaging in different roles creates bonds between inside and outside offices, which is so critical. And they have a lot of fun doing it. So that's just one kind of silly, fun thing we've used in the past and people have enjoyed.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. Michelle, did we have any other questions?
No other questions other than you guys have done such a great job. Very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to just, can I just state really quickly, if anybody ever wants to just call and talk through things, like I'm always available. Like that is my favorite thing to do. And that is really important in this time that we call people and have those conversations, even if it's those Shelton Cook versus Graystar people. I'm just kidding. No, but I'm just saying, like, call each other. I mean, this is the time to actually make our industry stronger. The only way we're going to do it is having conversations like this.
Absolutely. Stay connected, guys. Stay connected. It's so important right now. I'm so glad we got to have this conversation with you, and I wish you so much health and success, even in this crazy time. It's a great opportunity to be creative and get results in ways you've never gotten them before, and you might even get better results. So you take care and let us know. Let us know how you're doing out there.
We appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful day today.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.